Conscious Collaboration brings together entrepreneurs, changemakers, and thought leaders. We aim to highlight the people that embody the idea of aligned mind, body, and business. Each week, we share, discuss, and learn from the various experiences and ideas of our guest experts. Through our discovery, we find a path to an aligned mind, body, and business.
What up, y'all? I am Emily.
And I'm Lisa.
Hi.
Hey, we're the Conscious Collaboration.
Are we?
We are.
We are.
Hi today.
Yeah.
And you know what I like about doing these with you is it's so free flowing.
Everything.
Yeah, everything. It's fun. It's organic conversation. We solve problems. And the best things come out of when you can share things with, in play and have fun and with freedom and without any manipulation.
That is true. Manipulation free is the way to be.
It is. So based on, what you and I have been vibing on lately, I thought it would be a good topic for us to deep dive into the concept of boundaries. We're heading into the holidays as of this recording.
You shall not pass.
Can I put a door in your wall? It's like those. Do you remember? Did you watch those shows growing up with the lockers? Or
shows with the lockers?
Yeah, Nickelodeon with the lockers.
You're gonna have. Well, yeah, duh. Like you can't do that on television.
Yeah. Oh, thank God! I thought I was.
Yeah, no, that was my shit. Yeah.
Like, don't
Nickelodeon raised me.
And that explains us in our current condition.
Does it? MTV and like BET and Tupac movies also raised me. So balance.
That's the rest of the story, you guys.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, being in a relationship that has healthy boundaries and being able to, for you and I, we work together in lots of different ways, professionally, personally,
unprofessionally.
I left that hanging for you.
Yeah, that was low hanging fruit.
And I dare to say, we are an attraction, but things flow to us because of that.
We are an attraction.
We are an attraction.
Like a walking carnival.
We're a walking carnival. That's not red flag. Oh.
Not because of the red flags, more like because of the flashing lights and
songs.
Songs, lots of songs. Some food, maybe cotton candy. I don't know.
Yeah. Yep. Exactly. Bringing it back to boundaries. Boundaries get tested.
Reel it back in.
Mm-hmm. Every day, our boundaries get tested.
We are testing our own boundaries right now. I would say.
You're welcome, everybody, for that. For that expression.
For the illustration.
And the illustration. Personally, especially as the holidays are coming up when we're recording, there's going to be boundaries tested day in and day out. We experience with people that we're collaborating with clients, with, many, many facets professionally. We can go on and on and on, but let's talk.
I would add to that, like, without getting specific, I don't think I have to, but like global events just seem to have everybody on pretty high stress mode.
I know.
Boundary testing.
Yeah, we can't ignore that. It's happening.
Kind of mood. I'm in a boundary testing kind of mood.
It is.
I'm not, but I think a lot of people are,
Well, I think the atmosphere is boundary testing.
Right.
I mean, it feels that way. I mean, what happens when we don't have boundaries and we don't assert them? Well, loss of self and who we are and what we're accepting of.
Mm-hmm.
In extreme sense, I know there's been times in my life that I've been so boundaryless. Is that boundaryless? That I didn't even know what my favorite color was.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that can happen. And, that's not a place I'm going to ever return. But I do want to talk about boundaries and help to bring that top of mind for people as they're in this atmosphere and then as they're around different people in different social circles, and think about in terms of sustaining your success in business too, the importance of boundaries. So I did a little bit of a I Ching reading, of course, before we
Of
started this
course.
conversation,
But of course.
because I want to know what value we can bring and really talk about some aspects, the harmony that we can bring to our lives based on boundaries and the energy behind that. And of course, I think this is brilliant. It talks about the energy of deliverance. So the energy of deliverance being the overall arching energy around boundaries, and that's thunder above and water below. So it says a feeling of clarity and fresh opportunity follows a thunderstorm or any time of extreme tension or obstacles.
Mm-hmm.
The storm has had the effect of clearing the air and suddenly reducing atmospheric tension. And this symbolizes some kind of deliverance is at hand.
Mm-hmm.
Ooh, I like that.
So,
Yeah. Okay. What are you thinking?
well, I had a pretty harsh analogy, but the first thing that came to my mind when you read that to me before we recorded was, well, they say that the safest time to fly is right after a terrorist attack because the security, or in this metaphor, the boundaries, right, are you're on high alert, your boundaries are as strong as ever. And that's obviously a very extreme example, but I think that makes it a little easier to kind of see how that I Ching card applies perfectly to what we're talking about, because after something, disruptive, a tower moment, if you will, happens in your own life, and if you are even remotely on a self-development journey enough to look at a situation like that and go, okay, what am I supposed to learn here, and you do some recon and you figure out that, well, this particular thing happened because I looked past XYZ, or basically I allowed for XYZ boundary to be crossed. So right after something detrimental happens because of a lack of boundaries, then you're forced, I guess, almost to reevaluate and strengthen and set up boundaries where they weren't in place before, and reevaluate behaviors, and usually that connects directly with whatever boundary system you have set up for yourself.
So, like the artist that depicts this hexagram of deliverance, it shows really quite a stormy scene. The deep dark blue, which represents the deep dark parts of ourselves and our inner knowing and as a part of our life path journey, and water below. So a lot of the imagery talks about being on stormy seas. It talks about after a storm at sea, deliverance can take the form of land itself, which is that's pretty interesting. So to be able to identify and to accept boundaries, in a sense, is being able to do that is, seeing the solution outside, having the clarity to see the path beyond being lost at sea on stormy waters. And oftentimes the land is right on the other side of the storm of what we can't see. It says, in the realm of human relations, the rain of forgiveness can wash the human landscape clean after a conflicted period of enmity and error. Great clarity of purpose and renewed vigor can follow the healing of old wounds, but care must be taken to avoid accidentally reopening the wounds by moving too quickly.
And I definitely think that the forgiveness that it's referring to is like forgiveness for yourself in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
Like, even if this situation had something to do with like a betrayal or somebody did you wrong, it's like once you realize that your boundary you have broken, your boundaries have been broken, you may not consciously put this thought together, but you part of it is forgiving yourself for
Right.
having let that happen.
It is
Once
a
you
great
once
deal.
you
Yeah.
unpack everything and figure out what happens. So that's what I think they're referring to with forgiveness there. Every situation is different, but
Every situation is
usually if your
different.
boundaries have been broken, you got to figure like you're in charge of that.
Right. And
You're the
it's
bouncer.
acceptance. There's a lot of acceptance of that. It talks about making a clean sweep of the past and moving deliberately. Forgive,
Mhm.
forget, and move on to see your fortune
Mhm.
improve. And
Mhm.
I think that in looking back and reflecting on many times in my life, as soon as I have come to this point and realized boundaries have been crossed or there's been, manipulation at hand, as soon as those ties are cut or closed, then everything becomes clear and all the good stuff starts to flow
Mhm.
in and things
Mhm.
become easier. It's almost like an anchor has been cut. And in my cases, I didn't even know it ever existed, really. Because we can get so caught up in day to day and just keeping things afloat that you don't realize there's something that's causing a drag. Doesn't mean there needs to be any, negativity or any huge, um,
Dramatics.
dramatics. Right.
Right.
Even though I
Right.
know
It's
some
just
people suffer.
changing what you accept into your life. And not accepting something doesn't mean you act out against it, right? It doesn't mean that you take action against it. It usually mean, and I mean, again, this depends on exactly what kind of situation you're talking about, but usually this means letting go of someone, something, an entity, a situation, a job, a person, a relationship, however that applies. Letting go, uh, cutting off contact, communication,
Mhm.
or leaving a situation, leaving a job, leaving a place, whatever the case may be. Um,
Yeah.
so a lot of times the boundary or not accepting something is just removing yourself from a situation. It has
And
nothing
in
to
a
do with
better
actually
way.
taking action
Yeah.
against
Right.
another action.
Retaliation never needs to be a part of it.
Retaliation.
Yeah,
Mhm.
I think
Right.
it's an inner, like looking back at the card, and it has a lot of that inner self. There is the pink and the skin tones that indicate relationships, partnerships, and that type of energy as well too. But it's that being able to be empowered and know your inner truth and what's acceptable for you, and where you're headed. I like that. I'm so glad that I pulled that.
Mhm.
It talks, so the change lines and what we can add as additional value to this conversation, talks about exactly what you said. It says few words are needed. The recent obstacles are being overcome. Now there is peace. So just recuperate and relax. This is a good time to simply be still. And you know what?
Mhm.
I think back to a lot of conversations we've been hearing in our circles, and sometimes when you assert boundaries, it stirs up. It
Mhm.
might stir up a lot of retaliation in all sides. There could be a lot of dramatics.
Well, I mean, that gives you a clue, doesn't it? That I can't remember the exact like phrase, but it's like people who get upset with you for asserting boundaries, they get upset because they can't manipulate you.
Right. Ooh.
So only like if someone were to get upset because of that,
Mhm.
there's your clue right there that, this person, even if it's not like a fully malicious intent, like you can see this on a more subtle level sometime, or I mean, it doesn't have to be subtle, but with family or friends who
Mhm.
do, maybe overall have the best of intentions for you, but maybe they just don't know what the hell they're talking about. And so, you know, they think they know what's best. They think they know what's best for you. So,
So it goes on, and just what you were saying, it says in periods of stagnation, relationships may be formed on the basis of convenience. Since there is little challenge during such time, not much is demanded of friends and associates. But when important action is required, only the able and trustworthy can be counted on to perform well. And it says, free yourself from the entanglement of random relationships of low value. Good fortune comes from intentionally associating with people of talent and integrity. Both of
mhm.
those are important. In times
Yeah,
of great opportunity or crisis, it's better to have a weak person as an enemy than as an ally. I mean, that's
yeah.
enemy sounds harsh, but I mean, maybe keep the,
No,
you
it's
know,
not. It's not at all.
inside the inner circle there.
It's not at all. Because people, if you keep people around you who don't keep strong boundaries, that can have all kinds of implications for you. And like energy attracts like energy, and people who don't keep strong boundaries tend to end up being, like energy vampires in some way or another. Again, even if it's not like malicious or intentional or whatever. um y- you know it's still, the energy wants to bring you back down to that level in some way.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, there is that part where, just like-minded people can be attracted to like-minded people if you're in the wrong energy. Pe- I don't know whether it's intentional or not, because I know it's not, it's sometimes just a result of trauma, but manipulators are attracted to people that have no boundaries.
Yeah,
And,
right.
um,
Well, and then you see, and this is where a bit of my inspiration for today's conversation
mhm.
was coming from. You'll hear people talk about this, I'll say, in social circles, social media, clients, whatever.
It's
Not
pop
specific
culture
clients,
now.
but you hear this um terminology of the empath. You hear trauma bonds being talked about a lot, and these are both uh you know states related to low or no boundaries, or uh manipulation. And it is like jarring to me, because you sort of see people wearing it as a badge of honor, or laughing it off, or oh, I'm an empath, I feel everything. And it's like that's not a good thing. That we, first of all, we all have the capability of empathy. Well, unless
Totally.
you are of a certain cluster
Takes time
B
to develop.
disorder that your brain chemistry does not allow you to feel so. But most of us have the capacity to feel empathy, and you know to have empathy, I should say. And yeah, some people are like, on, well, there's a spectrum. It's a spectrum. Some people are more open than others. And, there are some people who are on the just very extreme end of it. But these are the people who have to understand and set the strongest boundaries in
Yeah.
order to even it is something that can be a gift, right? But in order for you to actually utilize that as a gift, in order to even have actual compassion, not to be confused with like being some kind of martyr. In order to have actual compassion and do things that are of value to people and to humanity, you have to have the strongest boundaries.
I mean,
So this whole like taking I likened this to like when you're a kid and you're in school and one of the other kids has crutches and there's like a line of kids. Oh, maybe this just happened in my school, but there's just like a line of kids wanting to use the other kid's crutches. Like, oh man, I wish I had crutches. Like, why?
Yeah.
It's kind of the same thing once you identify that about yourself, especially if you've identified it because you wound up in a situation that is not good, that deliverance pre-deliverance situation where the tower fell down because of a lack of boundaries, then now is not the time to take that on as your whole personality. I don't mean to say that as a nasty thing, but it's not a good thing to be this no boundary having empath,
It's
or
hard,
to
when you
talk about how you're trauma bonded. It's a real thing, and
Right.
if you identify that about yourself, you should be seeking professional help first of all, and but it's not something to go around and say, oh, haha, I'm trauma bonded, I can't get out of this horrible situation I've gotten myself in. It's like you just gave all your power away.
It's loss of empowerment, and it's kind of like, I'm not saying using an excuse or a pass really, but I just said that, but it's deeply feeling so much that in some level you're identifying with the quote unquote manipulator or abuser. So again, it's getting back into that empowerment side, especially when you're in a business relationship, is having that awareness that you are a deeply feeling human and putting that aside and realizing, this is no longer serving the trajectory of where we're headed. And
you don't have to put it aside necessarily, but it's don't take
it's just
the
evaluating
more victim mentality route either.
Victim mentality.
And this is why this is my story, and this is why my life is pain.
Right. Don't make it the past excuse as to why you're stuck in a cycle that's repeating and repeating.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's what we're talking about. And the indication of the I Ching too, it talks about, so looking at like what we can add value to this discussion is when you're asserting the boundaries, and it just said to us, not even knowing that, necessarily the nuanced parts of our conversations, but to evaluate the integrity level of the people that you're interacting with. And when you're able to assert boundaries, around the corner is the approach of spring, which is success. And it's hard to see in the moment. I've been in it many times before, but it's easier to be on the outside where people say, reflect back, when you let go of this, good things are going to follow. Or, when you lose this job, one door closes, another one opens. But when this is no longer a thing, opportunities are going to flow in. And it's easier to see from an outside perspective than looking at your own your own patterns in the situations that you're in. But it talks about how everything lies dormant when you're stuck in these cycles that no longer serve you. And once that's cleared is the deliverance.
Well, you can't put things into a container that's already full.
Making room.
If you're holding on to this way of being because you're trauma bonded or you're an empath or
whatever, so on and so
you
forth.
know, whatever the case may be, or because you've got a business partner and this is the way things have always been done, or, you
Mhm.
know, fill in the blank,
Yeah.
then you can't be open to the new, the spring, the fresh, the rejuvenation, the 2.0.
Mhm. Yeah, and I think just like we talk about with many things, it doesn't have to be grand gestures or anything, a big sweeping movement. It's just small steps in the right direction that things can start to be felt changing for the better.
Mhm, mhm.
But it's not a clear boundary if you're wishy-washy on it. And that's the
Right,
hardest thing. Sometimes it doesn't feel good to assert boundaries because you care
right.
about people.
And so to put this into a very concrete example, like that could be as simple as not responding to
Yeah,
someone.
right.
Generally, where you have to put boundaries is when there's an attempt at manipulation of a
Mhm.
situation happening, right? So yeah, but the point was they're probably, pulling out all the stops, kind of trying to throw all the tricks at you. They probably know what buttons to push, especially if they're a business partner or a
Mhm.
life partner or something
Yeah,
to
and
that effect. They know
you.
what buttons to push.
Right,
They know how to get you to respond. They know how to upset you. They know what makes you concerned for them.
right.
So it's something as simple as a non-response um can
It can
be
change.
immensely powerful as far as providing momentum in the positive direction of asserting boundaries.
Right,
Just not responding.
and that in itself, I mean, it could
Because
feel good.
9 times out of 10, maybe like 9.9999999 times out of 10, you are not obligated to respond
Right,
whatever is going on. You're just not.
right. Yeah. So, hard
So
answer.
these little practices of asserting boundaries in, non-dramatic ways, like I said, can be very, very impactful.
Yeah. And it's uncomfortable and it might feel a little
Mhm,
bit
mhm,
stormy, but there's
mhm.
deliverance on the other side. And not only
Short-term discomfort, long-term, and once you make the little calls, the bigger ones get easier and easier, and then you start looking forward to it. You start looking forward to it. "Oh, no, let me assert this, but oh, no, he did not." Or she, whatever, you
Right.
know? So so
Yeah. Well, I like it. I think this will be really helpful for people as they're around family that they haven't seen in a while. And so keep that in mind. And we'd love to hear what your experience is as you're heading into this time period of the holidays, and if there's anything that you're experiencing in your personal or your business life. You can join us in continuing this conversation inside of the closed and private Facebook group, the Conscious Collaboration Collective. So join us there, and you can follow us on all the social media. And we appreciate you subscribing too if you enjoyed this conversation and sharing with a friend. So, Emily, thank you. That was fun. I'm excited.
that was so fun. I think we should do a part 2 of that one.
Let's do it. I
Boundaries
have so much to say. Yeah.
continued.
Yes. To be continued. All right.
Mhm.
Thanks.
Alright, thanks, Pete. Talk to you in 5.
Bye. Bye.
Thank y'all so much for listening to our podcast. If you haven't yet, please be sure to subscribe, rate, review, and share with all your friends so they can join our circle of collaboration on this journey. You can find us on Instagram at Conscious Collaboration Podcast, on Spotify, iTunes, and Audible, to name a few. Please join us next time for another deep dive into how you can live life in more alignment, mind, body, and business. Send us your questions and comments in our DMs or email us at consciouscollaborationpodcast@gmail.com. See you in 5 minutes.